Joining us now is Laura Packard, Executive Director of Healthcare Voter. Laura, welcome to the show. How will the ruling motivate the Democratic and Republican base in the midterm elections?
Well, abortion has been an issue that has motivated the Republican base for decades now. And perhaps the Democratic base has gotten complacent that we thought this was settled law and that we could turn to healthcare advances. But that is not the case. Roe versus Wade is at stake. And so far, it does not look good.
So if Roe v. Wade is overturned or even diminished, can we predict in terms of voter turnout for the midterm elections? And I know we're talking about midterm elections and viewers might think it's far away, but it will be here before we know it.
Yes, it's going to be 2022 before you know it. So how this is going to affect turnout is difficult to say because, of course, we don't know what the ruling is, and the ruling will come out next spring or summer, most likely. But this could be a motivating factor. We saw millions of Americans turn out in women's marches after Trump was elected, and this could motivate the same group of people now that fundamental rights are at stake.
If the Supreme Court agrees to overturn Roe v. Wade, which states could try to enact a similar ban? And how do you think it'll affect 2022 elections?
Well, there are some states that already have laws on the books that would come into effect if Roe versus Wade was struck down. So states like Wisconsin and Michigan already have abortion bans on the books. And there are states like Georgia and Florida that would likely pass laws because they have a Republican trifecta. They have Republican governors and Republican state legislatures that would probably move very fast to pass abortion bans into law. So it could affect up to half the country.
Democrats see the abortion fight as a potential way to attract certain suburban women voters who they did lose during the election last year. Can you explain how so, and how would this bring back those voters that may have strayed?
Well, abortion is popular in America. The right to choose is a fundamental right between a woman and her doctor. And so people have been voting on things other than abortion for many years now because it wasn't a top issue. It didn't look like it was at stake. So people have been voting on the economy and other parts of healthcare and various other things. But if this is directly at stake, which it will be because abortion will be illegal in many states, then I think that this will motivate people to become choice voters again.
Senator Debbie Stabenow of Michigan said, quote, "We're talking about rolling back the clock on health care for women 50 years. How will this case impact women's rights moving forward, Laura?"
Well, I think the right to make a choice for your own body and your family is a fundamental one. And I think that many of us have thought that this was already done, that this was settled with our grandmothers and our mothers. But it is not the case. There has been a small right-wing faction that has been working on this issue year after year. They have made small gains in school boards, state legislatures, and so on. They have been working towards this point. Their end goal is to end abortion in America, and they are making advances. So fundamental rights that we thought were already settled are up for debate with this radical Supreme Court.
All around the U.S., we're seeing races where the Democrats are strongly favoring abortion rights. Republicans are instituting abortion restrictions. What key midterm races should we keep an eye on here?
Well, take a look at Georgia, where a strong progressive champion is going to be running, Stacey Abrams, versus a right-wing governor, Brian Kemp. So take a look at that race, and also pay attention to the the Senate races in North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. We'll see how the Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina voters decide whether a right to choose is on top on their list.
What are your biggest concerns in the months ahead, and how is Healthcare Voter working to address those very concerns, Laura?
Well, we live in a moment where it's possible to expand healthcare instead of taking it away. Congress right now is working on Build Back Better, which would make health insurance more affordable, which would expand healthcare in states like Florida and Georgia and Mississippi and Texas. These places that are trying to pull back healthcare have also refused to expand Medicaid to their lowest income citizens for years. So there's a federal fix on the way if the Senate can pass it and get it signed into law. But again, I find it interesting that some of these legislators pretend to care about women's health, and yet they have refused to provide health care for some of their most vulnerable people for years.
Laura Packard, Executive Director of Healthcare Voter. Thank you so much for your time, Laura. Now, for